Cab turned onto Birchwood Lane just as the sun was dipping below the rooftops, painting everything in that tired orange light that makes ordinary things look beautiful. I pressed my face closer to the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. 8 years. 8 years since I had driven down this street, since I had seen the maple tree in front of my daughter's house, since I had heard her laugh in person rather than through a phone speaker with a 3-second delay. I had bought that house for my daughter Claire as a wedding gift. 3 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, a backyard big enough for the grandchildren I hoped would come. I remember standing in the driveway the day I handed her the keys, watching her cry happy tears, thinking that was the best money I had ever spent in my life. That was 12 years ago, 4 years before I left for Germany. The job in Frankfurt had not been my idea. After my wife passed, the walls of our house in Cincinnati started closing in on me. My brother-in-law knew someone at a logistics firm expanding into Europe. They needed an operations manager who spoke some German and had 40 years of industry experience. I had both. My daughter had encouraged me to go. "Dad, you need something to live for right now," she had said, squeezing my hands across the kitchen table. "We'll call every week. I'll send you pictures of everything." And we had. For the first 2 years, we had. Then the calls started getting shorter, then less frequent. Then there were stretches of 3 or 4 weeks where I would leave voicemails that went unreturned. I told myself she was busy. Her husband Derek had started a contracting business around that time, and I knew how consuming those early years of building something could be. I told myself she was tired. She had had a baby, my granddaughter Lily, and I had only seen photographs. I told myself a lot of things that let me stay in Frankfurt instead of buying a plane ticket. I am not proud of that. I want to say that plainly before I say anything else. I am not proud of telling myself comfortable lies so I would not have to feel the discomfort of being far from my only child. The thing that finally brought me home was not a call from Claire. It was a call from her neighbor, an older woman named Patty who had lived across the street since before Claire was born. Patty had my number because Claire had given it to her years ago for emergencies. When I saw the Cincinnati area code on my phone at 6 in the morning Frankfurt time, my stomach dropped before I even answered. "I don't want to alarm you," Patty said, which is the sentence that always precedes something alarming. "But I think you need to come home, Robert. I think something is very wrong in that house." She told me she had not seen Claire smile in over a year, that she watched my daughter take out the trash before sunrise most mornings, always moving carefully, like someone whose body hurt, that she had tried to wave hello from across the street, and Claire had looked away quickly, the way you look away when someone might be watching you, that she had seen Derek's mother and 2 sisters coming and going like they owned the place, pulling up in their cars and walking straight inside without knocking. I booked the first available flight home. I did not call ahead. Some part of me already understood that calling ahead would only give someone time to prepare a version of things I was not supposed to see. The cab stopped in front of the house, and I sat there for a moment, just looking. The wraparound porch I had loved was stacked with storage boxes. The flower beds Claire had always kept carefully were overgrown and tangled. One of the shutters on the front window was hanging at an angle, like a tooth that needed pulling. The house looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with the season. I paid the driver and walked up the front path with my suitcase. I still had a key on my keyring, the original one I had kept after handing Claire hers. I do not know exactly why I had kept it. Maybe I always knew I would need it someday. I slid it into the lock, and the door opened quietly. The smell hit me first. Something between bleach and mildew, like the cleaning products were fighting a battle they kept losing. I stepped into the front hallway and stopped. My daughter was on her hands and knees at the far end of the hallway, scrubbing the baseboards with a brush. Her hair was pulled back in a rough knot, and she was wearing an oversized gray t-shirt and sweatpants that were too big for her. She was thin, not the healthy thin of someone who runs in the mornings. The other kind. The kind that happens when someone is not eating enough or not sleeping enough or carrying something too heavy for too long. Her forearms, visible below her pushed-up sleeves, had bruising along the inside that she was not hiding because she did not know I was there. I must have made a sound, because she spun around. The look on her face in that first half-second, before she recognized me, was pure fear. Not surprise. Fear, the kind of immediate physical fear that lives in the body before the brain catches up. It was the worst thing I have ever seen on another person's face, and it was my daughter's face, and I will carry that image for the rest of my life. Then she recognized me, and the fear shifted into something complicated and broken. "Dad," she said, barely above a whisper. I crossed the hallway in about 4 steps and got down on one knee next to her and put my arms around her, And she held on to me the way Lily used to hold on to me when she was 3 years old and had woken from a nightmare, with everything she had, like she was afraid to let go. We stayed like that on the floor of the hallway for a long time. She did not cry. That scared me more than the bruises. I did not make a scene that night. I want to be clear about that. I wanted to. Everything in me wanted to find Derek and his family and say things that could not be unsaid. But I am 63 years old, and I have lived long enough to know that the loudest move is almost never the smartest one. I asked Claire quiet questions, and I listened to the answers, and I built a picture of the last 4 years, piece by piece. Derek had changed around the time Lily was born. That was how Claire explained it. He had built his contracting business on borrowed money, and some of the projects had gone sideways. The financial pressure had curdled into something ugly. His mother, Wanda, had moved in to help with the baby, and she had never moved out. His two sisters, Brenda and Tara, treated the house like a hotel they had not paid for, showing up whenever they felt like it, and expecting to be fed and accommodated. Claire had developed severe postpartum depression after Lily arrived, the kind that does not just make you sad but makes you unable to trust your own mind. In that fog, over the course of several months, Derek had presented her with paperwork she did not fully understand. She had signed things. She did not remember signing some of them. Her psychiatrist had later told her that the medication she had been on at the time would have made her highly suggestible, easily confused, unable to evaluate complex decisions clearly. The documents transferred the deed of the house into a joint trust that Derek effectively controlled. My daughter had become a tenant in her own home. Then, gradually, something less than a tenant. Wanda assigned her the household tasks: cooking, cleaning, laundry for everyone under that roof. If Claire pushed back, Derek would remind her of things she had signed, of decisions she had made, of how much the family had done for her during her episode. He had built a cage out of paperwork and shame, and she had not known how to find the door. Lily was 5 years old. She called Wanda Grandma before she called me anything, because she had never met me in person. I stayed at a motel 2 miles away that first night because I did not trust what I might say to Derek if I stayed in that house. I lay on top of the motel bedspread, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, making a list in my head of everything I needed to do. The next morning I drove to the offices of a family law attorney named Susan Okafor, whom I found because she had 37 5-star reviews and 2 of them mentioned property fraud. I sat across from her and told her everything I had seen and heard, and I watched her expression grow steadily more serious. She told me several important things. The first was that coercing someone to sign legal documents while they are on high-dose psychiatric medication, particularly without independent counsel present, was grounds to challenge the validity of those documents. The second was that what had been happening in that house had a name, and it was not just cruelty. It was a pattern of coercive control that in many jurisdictions carries real legal consequences. The third was that she had handled 7 cases like this, and she had won 5 of them. I hired her that afternoon. Then I went back to see Claire and I told her what I had done. She looked at me the way she had looked at me when she was 9 years old, and had convinced herself she was invisible in a school play, and I had shown up in the front row anyway. Like someone who had stopped expecting to be saved and was not sure they were allowed to feel relief yet. "He's going to be so angry," she said. "Let him," I said. I moved back into the house under the pretense of a visit. Derek and Wanda did not like it, but there was nothing they could say without exposing what they had been doing. I watched everything. I documented everything. Wanda's habit of handing Claire a written list of chores each morning like a task sheet. Brenda and Tara arriving at noon on Wednesdays expecting lunch to be made. The way Derek spoke to Claire in front of me, carefully, measured, versus what I heard through the walls at night when he thought I was asleep. I bought a small voice recorder from a drugstore, and I kept it in my shirt pocket. Susan worked on the legal challenge to the property documents. She brought in a forensic document examiner and a psychiatrist who reviewed Claire's medical records from that period. The records showed clearly that in the months when she had signed the key documents, her psychiatrist had flagged her as severely impaired in executive function. The forensic examiner found that several of the signatures showed signs consistent with someone under physical or psychological duress. 3 weeks into my stay, Derek figured out what was happening. I was in the kitchen making coffee early in the morning when he came downstairs, and I saw it in his face, the shift from managed performance to something raw. He had gotten a call from his own attorney. He knew we were building a case. "You need to stay out of things that don't concern you," he said. "My daughter concerns me," I said. "This house, which I bought with money I spent 30 years earning, concerns me. My granddaughter concerns me. I haven't found the edge of what concerns me yet." He told me to leave the house. I reminded him that the chain of title was currently under legal dispute and that until a court said otherwise, I had as much right to be there as anyone. He called his mother. I called Susan. The next 4 days were the most tense of my life. Wanda arrived and treated me to a performance of wounded dignity. Brenda and Tara stopped coming by. Derek walked through the house like a man calculating exits. I slept with my recorder on the nightstand and my phone charged to 100%. On a Tuesday evening, I came home from meeting with Susan to find every lock on the house changed. I sat in my car in the driveway and thought carefully about my next step. Then I called the non-emergency police line and explained that I was cohabitating in a home under disputed title and had been locked out without legal process. An officer came. He reviewed the documentation I had brought in a folder in my car. The locks were changed back within 2 hours. Derek was not in the house when I returned. Claire told me he had left with a duffel bag and she did not know where he had gone. I should have felt relieved. Instead, something in my stomach said to pay attention. 3 nights later, at 11:47 p.m., the smoke detectors in the hallway went off. The fire started in the back utility room, which Derek had used as a home office. Lily's bedroom was directly above it. I was out of bed and in the hallway before I was fully awake, moving by the kind of instinct that bypasses thinking. I got to Lily's room, got her out of bed and into my arms, and got Claire out of the main bedroom, and we were out the front door in under 90 seconds. A neighbor had already called 911. The fire trucks came. The fire was contained to the utility room and the wall between it and the kitchen, which was damage enough. The fire investigators' report, issued 8 days later, used the word incendiary. A specific accelerant pattern, not an accident. Derek had driven back into town that afternoon. There was surveillance footage from a gas station 2 blocks away showing his truck at 9:15 p.m. He was arrested at his mother's house 40 miles away at 6 the following morning. The charges were extensive: arson, coercive control, document fraud, endangerment of a minor. I will not pretend the legal process was fast or clean because it was neither. There were continuances and motions and hearings I sat through in a suit with my hands folded in my lap. Susan was steady through all of it. Claire was steadier than I expected. The property documents were voided by the court on the grounds of undue influence over a person with documented cognitive impairment. The house was restored to Claire's name. Derek's legal bills consumed whatever he had left in the contracting business. He accepted a plea agreement that included 38 months in a minimum security facility and 5 years of supervised release, with a no-contact order covering Claire and Lily. Wanda and her daughters never came back to the house. I do not know where they went, and I find I do not spend time thinking about it. The morning after the final hearing, Claire and I sat on the porch of the house, which still smelled faintly of smoke repair work underway in the back, and we drank coffee and watched Lily run through the yard chasing a sparrow that had no intention of being caught. Lily runs with her whole body, arms and legs going in enthusiastic different directions, the way small children run before they get self-conscious about it. I should have called you, Claire said. She was not looking at me, she was watching Lily. You did call me, I said. Patty did, anyway. She smiled at that, the first real full smile I had seen on her face since I came home. It looked like her mother's smile. It always has. I stayed in Cincinnati. I did not go back to Frankfurt. My contract there had ended anyway, and there was nothing waiting for me in that apartment in Sachsenhausen except a good coffee maker and a view of a canal I had stopped appreciating. What was waiting for me here was a 5-year-old who had started calling me Grandpa Robert with the particular conviction of someone who has decided something important. We used the restitution money and some of my own savings to repair the house properly. New kitchen, refinished floors, the wraparound porch cleared and repainted. I planted a small garden in the backyard that Lily helps me water on Saturday mornings with a plastic watering can shaped like a frog. Claire started seeing a therapist who specializes in what she went through. She is not the same person she was before those 4 years, and she says she does not expect to be. But she sleeps through the night now, and she laughs at things again, and she decided she wanted to go back to school for her nursing degree, which she had put aside when Lily was born. She is 12 credits in. There is something I want to say directly to anyone listening who has family they have been putting off, visiting, calls they keep meaning to return, distance they have let grow, because it was easier than closing it. I lost 8 years. 8 years when my daughter needed me and I was not here. I am not asking for absolution. I am saying that no contract, no salary, no comfortable explanation is worth that. And if you are in the middle of telling yourself a comfortable story about why you cannot be present for the people who love you, I hope something interrupts that story before it costs you what it cost us. The maple tree out front is still there, bigger now, reaching over the roofline. Lily likes to sit under it in the evenings when the weather is good. Sometimes I sit next to her, and she leans against my arm, and we watch the street go quiet together. And I think that this, specifically this, is what I almost missed. I don't intend to miss anything else. If this story moved you at all, I hope you'll share it with someone you've been meaning to call. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, stay with us. There's always another chapter worth telling.